Once upon a time highly developed reptilian race who was back then millions of years ahead of where the human race is today, or at least where part of it is, created humans, and that was the first root race of humans, called the Golden Race, by mixing their own DNA with the DNA of humans. They made them in order to be cheap workforce, food source and for their sexual gratification. The first root race was much like them, more reptiles in appearance and everything than mammals. But the reptiles were unsatisfied with them because they were too smart and they raised their voice against reptilian supremacy too many times. Then the reptiles created the silver race, and then the copper race, and then the demigod race. It is not known whether this race should be counted separately, and then at the end the iron race, that is us. Every next race was more mammal-like in appearance and behavior and was made to be more and more dumb in order to be more subservient to them. It was more sickly, had shorter lifespans, etc. etc. Each race would be destroyed for some pretense reason, and the last one was, as you already know, destroyed for daring to mix with them and corrupt their DNA. The aliens or Anunnaki or Elohim, call them what you will, that were responsible were punished also. These are the so-called fallen angels or Nephilim. But they were not utterly destroyed in the sense the previous root race of humans was destroyed, but they were bound in the inside of the hollow earth in the so-called land of Nod or Shambhala, etc. It has different name in each culture. The ones among them that were reptilians to the lesser degree, their children with earthly women, half Nephilim, were turned into demons or bodiless spirits to do the bidding for the Nephilim in such form. What does it have to do with today's royalty all across the world? Well, they are the new children of Nephilim and people. There was always some very good and pious son of Nephilim and men, who was so good that a god would actually had sympathy for him and his family, and he would be spared from destruction and allowed to continue and become the rulers of the humans, their kings and queens. That guy was that famous dragon slayer that took care in one way or another by suing them to God like Noah, or by slaying them themselves like Perseus, for the obnoxious half-reptilians, and in that way supposedly stopped their demand for human sacrificial offerings and human sexual favors. But how was it okay for them to stay along for the ride if they were half-breed, although they were supposedly good? Wasn't there a danger that Noah could have a bad apple in his family although he himself was okay? Of course there was, and that is what the Bible, according to some, actually warns us about. Shortly after the flood, people starting dabbling with the devil again by practicing sorcery and black magic, and we know, from all those myths and legends, that the people that do that kind of stuff have the tendency to turn themselves into vampires after their deaths. That is not all there is to it, but that is one of the more frequently quoted reasons for becoming a vampire. They, the aristocracy, do not even consider themselves to be the offspring of Seth but of Cain, son of Eve, and Lucifer, who slayed his brother Abel, son of Eve, and Adam, whose replacement, after he was slain, was Seth. Cain survived and produced the royal bloodlines of the earth, and he was given a right to avenge sevenfold for each transgression that man would make against him. So Noah was his offspring, but yet they say his DNA was unblemished. How come? Well, that is probably because of epigenetics, because he carried the reptilian genes, but he hadn't done anything yet what would actually activate them and made them express themselves. So after his death, God took him to the heavens where he could be reptilian on God's own terms. But the Bible has prophesied that, in the last days on earth, and that are actually the last day of this root race, not of the whole humankind, there will be like in the days of Noah. So should we expect vampire outbreak anytime soon? Most likely. But you wonder how all that ordinary peasants supposedly became vampires throughout the history, like it was the case with Serbia? The answer is simple. They were out-of-wedlock children of peasant women and aristocratic men, and on top of that they drank the blood of the vampires. What vampires? Probably the ones that snuck out of the hollow earth onto its surface. And for the end, the next root race that will be created will be called Kalki, according to Hindu mythology, and looks very much like an orangutan. Will the next root race look like the intelligent apes from the Planet of the Apes franchise? Very possible.